Welcome to the Bracers Guild podcast, where we play through all the Trails games for the first time. I'm your host, Brandon, and joining me along this ride is my fellow co-host, Alex. How you do this morning? Or
this morning? this morning. Yeah, I mean, it's morning for me. I just woke up. What? No, I mean, it's basically equivalent to morning. Like, you go outside, the birds are chirping, the world is ending probably somewhere. And we're talking about video games, because that's just what you do on a Sunday.
Sunday afternoon, not morning.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon. So, Trails, yeah? The game? The one and only?
The game series. The purpose of this podcast is to...
right.
This is indeed a podcast.
All right, we're not just rambling. Yeah, go ahead.
Me and Alex decided to do a dumb idea here and try to play through all of the Trails games on a whim, and decided to chronicle this through a podcast where we go through a chapter at a time and just discuss what happened with it. What happened with it? What happened to this?
What happened to this franchise?
We'll probably get there eventually.
Probably. We'll probably like game
it's
3.
A long
it's
enough.
Like, what happened? It was so good, and then what? Yeah.
As any jaded fan
like...
with in a podcast, any jaded fan in a fan base,
for sure,
will tell you.
We're not veterans yet. We still got like the squirrely-eyed. The world's wonderful.
The world's wonderful.
Yeah.
We don't know the horrors yet.
Well, you know a horror. Friggin' Charizard. That character drives me nuts. I guess we'll get there in a bit. We decided to chronicle our journeys because we wanted to spend the next 10 to 20 years of our life focusing on one video game. So we figured there's not enough consistency in our lives. So what's to do? Yes, let's start a podcast about it.
Yeah. We're going to start with the prologue today, and we're going to do chapter by chapter for each podcast episode. We're not going to recap every single bit of dialogue because this game's long.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've got the script on my second monitor.
I try to look for a script. I try to look for like any way to like
really
summarize notes for this podcast. I just ended up using a long play I found on YouTube just to like, what happened? Here went along with these notes. I looked at a script and it was like, okay, here's this text box in not in the order, just in some random entry. It's okay, it's like, here's this one thing in like this one area, and it's like, why is this not in order?
Just like completely arbitrary quotes. I guess you can't really do an order though for things like the side quests, because you can do them in any order you want, right? So you couldn't really order it in that sense. And I guess you could do main quests, like maybe you could do like here's the main quest, then here's a bunch of bubbles or links that refer to a bunch of different side quests. You can do it any order, and then here's the main quest again, and so on. But
you would think you would want to start at the start of a script, and then like, okay.
Look, when
you think of an old website,
when you think of the story as a functional piece of literature, right? What's the best part? It's not like the whole bit at the start where the things are kind of happening and people are learning each other and like you're getting accustomed. You're dipping your toes into the hot tub, right? It's like the rising action, too slow, right? Not interesting enough. You got to throw that.
I think
out.
that's a whole interesting point.
Climax, however, that's where you start, and then you go back. It's like when you're eating Lucky Charms. You eat all the marshmallows first, and then you eat all the
I feel like that's
cereal.
like every in media res story. It starts at the climax, and it's like, you're wondering how I got in this situation.
It's like what's the kid from the show? Like starts with an F. Is it Fernie? Something like that. His Wild Life, where he goes on, he pretends to be sick, and then he goes out in the town with a girl and his friend in their dad's car or whatever. Have you seen that one?
No.
That movie? No? Dude, he started the whole, like, I bet you're wondering how I got here. Well, let me tell you a story, kind of a thing, like freeze frame.
I Give me movie knowledge, I guess. Never knew.
Yeah. Me to you. This is bizarre. This never happens. Anyway, yeah, the prologue.
Prologue.
So, yeah, the one and only.
The one and
So
only prologue.
we start the story with Cassius Bright, Estelle, and Joshua has been laid the fuck out on the bed.
More accurately, Estelle has been waiting at the younger Estelle,
Yeah,
not
child
not
one.
child, not teen Estelle is waiting at home for her dad when a mysterious boy comes along. Ooh, that's all injured.
And much akin to fictional characters who are edgy and dark and lovely, he doesn't thank Cassius for saving him. He just yells at him a bunch. Like, why did you do this, old man? Like that style, which is
Yeah.
great. And Estelle responds by beating him while he's already down. And canonically, they confirm later she does it by kicking him. So this chick, like, high flying sidekicks this dude in a bed who's already injured.
Who's like injured, heavily injured. It's like bandaged on head.
Yeah, just wounded. And she's like, I can add more to this. He's not that bad. That's what happens when you talk shit about my papa.
Papa is sad.
Yeah, Papa Bright.
One of my favorite text boxes. Papa is sad. There is some funny ass dialogue in this game.
No, it's amazing, yeah. We have... Oh, hold on, I'm going to bring up a couple here.
Oh yeah, I have a Twitter thread of just like a bunch of different stuff that I find funny. That I just post on it.
I'm trying to find... Oh, right, yeah, that reminds me of the weird incest in this game, but we'll talk about that later. There's so many of these. My goodness, just looking through the things that we sent each other, there's like 7 different instances of... Anyway, yeah, Papa is sad. That's one of them. I really like... I give thanks to thee for thy infinite grace in bestowing upon us such wonderful gifts as Suas. Because Estelle, as part of becoming a bracer, I guess if we're running a guild now, this is what all you aspire to do, is become bracers under our servitude, to quote unquote save the world, probably. As part of becoming a bracer, you have to take a special exam, and that exam is written in most cases, and I thought it was written. I
don't think it's written at all.
No, I know, but like Estelle thinks it's written. I thought it was written. Apparently, you didn't. But the entire time, I was just thinking, like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to memorize everything that we're doing on this quest. Just pick up random stuff, and then like once we get to this final exam, you do the exam, you become a bracer. So it's just gonna be like a memory test. And the entire time, they're building you up with like, oh, okay, here's the Orbital guy who basically sells you knickknacks that do magic in the arts and crafts system, which is fun. And here's this guild thing, and this is like how you register and stuff. So I totally figured once we got to the special area, Charizard, who is our teacher, would be like, oh, okay, bring out your pencils, folks. But no, she points to a sewer. She's like, get in there.
Get in there
Grind.
and fight monsters. Fight
Get in there
rats.
and fight. Yeah. And when given the option between fighting rats in a sewer, beating bats off by the power of only magic, because they're so threatening as to be able to rip through your skin and flesh just because you can't hit them, because there's just swarms of them. And taking a written exam, Estelle prefers the prior to the latter. And honestly, maybe the same.
I don't know if she prefers.
She absolutely prefers going into the sewer.
Yes. I don't think she wants to write. She just assumes it's going to be writing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No, she hates the idea of it being written. I just totally thought it was. But there are lots of moments in the game so far where it feels like, oh, the character has an intuition, and it's the exact intuition that I feel like any person playing the game would have. Do you have an example off the top of your head?
No,
Did
because I'm
you?
bad at remembering dialogue.
How about the airport guy who thirsts off of every single one? That's just you in real life, right? You just
No.
like a girl walks past you and you're like awooga awooga,
Yeah, I
wearing a
want to kill
normal
that man.
outfit.
That that man is awful.
There's a Okay, so I guess we should probably explain a little bit about the world. I'd imagine people who are watching this or listening to this, there's not much to watch, probably already know a bunch about Trails because it's like a 30-year-old game. But for the sake of argument, we should probably explain a little bit about the world. Do you want to begin that?
I guess we can go into more stuff that Chart. How the I don't know how to say her name. The purple Chart. It sounds like Charizard, but I feel like that's wrong.
It does, doesn't it? You could just call her like Ojo-sama. She has the laugh.
She does. They give her a nickname immediately, like
The silver streak.
the Silver Streak.
Yeah.
Anyways, Charizard tells you a little bit about the world and about like orbits and whatnot. And orbits are kind of like just like the power of the world. Kind of like use orbital energy and use like and stuff based on like different like quartz can produce different things. Like
It's like electronics Final Fantasy crystals.
yeah, and it powers like airships and like magic. Can even power like lights or like a washing machine. So it's just like it's
Classical
like an
fantasy washing machine.
it's like eco power.
Oh yeah, I guess it is, because it literally just pulled from the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, I have found rock, it pretty power, pretty cool stuff. It even powers guns.
Yeah, I feel like if it's power, it just powers anything. Like there's like Trails has a very like fantasy aesthetic, but in like a almost modern steampunk aesthetic.
It's kind
What?
of like Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, fantasy.
Yeah, except instead of like steam, it's crystals, because
Yeah.
JRPG. All they're missing is like
Quartz.
that's true. And I mean, there is kind of like a nice back and forth with the fact that they use quartz, because in actual electronics, if you supply voltage to certain kinds of quartz crystals, they oscillate, and that creates the clock that allows digital electronics to run. So there is like some interesting back and forth there. Yeah, but only for nerds. So, yeah, there's that. What else does Charizard say?
uh, she also starts to talk about bracers. The main kind of like the main like force, kind of like your standard like adventure guild type thing, but like in an organized sense. It's like they're cops, but not really cops. They're like adventuring cops. In a
It's
sense.
interesting. They're almost like a private militia. But no,
Yeah,
they're not quite a private militia. They're actually just a straight up publicly funded militia group. That's what they feel like.
yeah, it's definitely kind of like a it's pub. Yeah,
Because they solve crimes occasionally.
would
They
you consider that also police, but instead of publicly funded, just taxes?
First podcast. Are the policemen really just militia? Do we live in a police state? I don't say yeah. No, it sounds that sounds accurate.
Thankfully, the bracers don't are not a police state. Well,
As far as we know,
this place isn't a police state.
it's a monarchy. It's not that far off, probably, unless it's like the Queen of England. Just kind of, I guess.
Well, like when I think of police state, I think of like kind of like a ruling figure in like a specific area instead of like kind of like a kingdom, you know?
When I think of police state, I think of like a state that's been almost like overthrown by the power that the police hold, and that they formed into an actual like not quite publicly funded militia, like almost like a shogunate. That's what I imagine a police state as. You have like the shogun who's the general, and then you have a bunch of samurai underneath who act as police, and they like keep law and order, but also kind of control the government.
My favorite type of like police state in fiction is like the Full Metal Alchemist, kind of like military. Is like the is like that's the most clearest thing of like, okay, this is a police state. This is the most police state esque thing. It's also like the shape of the like the city slash region is very like utilitarian,
Yeah, no
and
circles, right? Just squares.
it's kind of like pyramids, but
Pyramids,
and
my god.
it's just, or angles, more angular.
Angles. Man, that's the scariest shape.
But yeah, no, they're just kind of like friendly adventurers that kind of like just help solve problems because there's like a posted board where you can do side quests and whatnot
It
for
reminds me a lot of like the Pokemon games, like the Pokemon adventure games, where you'd go out and it would have like, oh,
like
hello.
rangers.
No, there's a Pokemon. It's I think it's literally like a Pokemon tactical RPG, and it acts literally the exact same way as this, where it's like you have your hub world, you've got a bunch of characters, and they're just different Pokemon. You've got your one Pokemon who's like the guild master. You go to that Pokemon, you're like, hey, what's up? And they're like, main quest. And you're like, cool. And then there's also roster stuff that you can go look at and sign up for individual quests. And you can go on those side quests before you take on the main quest. Do you know that Pokemon game? You play
Pokemon
as
Mystery
Pokemon.
Dungeon.
It might be Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It might be. That sounds extraordinarily familiar. Like a bell has turned on somewhere in my old soggy brain. Yeah, no, it reminds me a lot of that.
One last thing that Charizard says is the kingdom of liber lib liberty
Liberal.
liberal, literally just liberal.
Kingdom of Liberal. No, it's liberal, I think. Liberal.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting because like that's a name where I feel like could only be expressed in katakana. Because in my assumption of like how the Japanese would say it, it would just sound like saying liberal. Because it'd be like liberu, right? And that's literally just liberal. So it could be. I don't know. They have a news. That makes a liberal state, right?
I guess. But the main thing that they focus on with the kind of like the kingdom aspect is like the invasion of Ebrodian.
Urbonian.
Or
The
Borian.
Urbonian Empire or whatever.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, started invading the kingdom, which I feel like, based on like a little bit of the next chapter, will probably play a huge effect in probably like how the story goes forward, and probably like the relationship between that and this, because there's been a few instances of already with like later on character being from Embrodia, and then they have like a conversation, but that's something for a little bit later. A thing that we skipped over, funny enough, the time skip between the moment that Estelle and Joshua met. Now they're family, which won't be brought up at all.
It'll be brought up. Just not quite how you think. Welcome to Japanabama, where it doesn't matter if they're your brother or your sister.
It's surprising how many times throughout this prologue that they mention this. It's kind of insane. From like
I have
random
quotes.
NPCs to like main story content. It's like
Yep. Charizard tries to lay your brother a couple times. Canonically, he's 16 and she's something like 30.
I feel like she's joking with that. Like,
I don't know, man. Like, I've seen
that's
some things from her that you haven't yet. Well, here's a quote. Joshua's adopted and things could go either way in the future, right? When referring to you responding, he's my brother, to her saying he's hot, and this is a child. There's also the fact that you haven't fallen for him yourself is beyond me, from random farm girl who is Estelle's childhood friend.
that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it just keeps going. And And yeah, Charizard hits on him. Every single character that you meet in the game at some point will hit on Joshua as well,
And
which
eventually,
is
like,
amusing, including men.
Estelle also tries to become like a wingman for Joshua.
Yeah. Yeah, no, her response to hearing all of this is just naivete, cuz like everybody's like you should sleep with your brother, and she's like, "Oh, I get you. I should help my brother get a girlfriend." Which is amazing, and the only response that makes sense. So yeah, I think right after that segment with the farm girl, she literally comes out and she's like, "Man, you you really don't understand when people have a thing for you and how to fall in love and stuff." And he just responds by like staring at her, like just awkwardly. Because earlier on, I totally should have said this first, but earlier on it said that he has been advanced on by many women that Estelle didn't know about, and he's rejected every single one of them. And it's very heavily implied that that's because he has a thing for you, because you're Estelle in the game. Congratulations. So, a
I
little
don't know
weird.
if that's necessarily what it's going for.
I think it is.
That's a interpretation of what not, but also I feel like he's definitely someone who doesn't want to really build connections, meaningful connections, because there's like something within like his past where it's like he's kind of like rejecting intimacy besides like the people who like who he lives with,
Yeah.
because he's grateful for like them taking in, because a later on conversation for when Cassius goes away uh to a continent is there's like a heavily implication of like Joshua knows what's going to happen to Cassius or like something similar, uh because like Cassius like, don't forget like the past 5 years here, even uh like still remember like what happened here, and like there's like some worldview that Joshua, and it's all very like subtle. It's
Yeah.
not
At
like,
one point, you're on the farm, and Joshua and Estelle are dealing with some farm animals. And Estelle very smartly notices they're cute and therefore should be spared. And Joshua acts out the part of a psychopath and states that he still feels like they should be murdered. And that continues for hours later when she confronts him about it. So there's definitely something going on with that boy. There's a worldview clash somewhere in there. And I have a subtle feeling it has to do with monsters or something along those lines.
maybe I feel like he was probably part of like some sort of organization, because like I feel like
Organization 13, maybe.
no. Probably like some sort of like
It's actually Rico.
he definitely seems like kind of like a street type boy, orphan
Oh,
type,
right.
kind of like archetype, who kind of like got taken in like an organization, is like the vibes I'm getting off him.
Yeah, like he was abandoned by his family or something. I don't know. With the way that
Oh,
they bring him up, there's a part of me that's curious if he was just like straight up Shadow the Hedgehog and created in some test tube somewhere, and it's like he's the ultimate weapon, and then he's just a kid. Because like he chastises Cassius with the same sage wisdom of an edgelord in his 30s, and he's like 11 canonically. So because the things he says, like 11-year olds don't say like you should have killed me when you had the chance, old man. Like nobody says that. I may have said
eh.
that. I may have said that once or twice, but
I feel like it's very like kid, kind of
yeah,
like kid, like faking responsibility
yeah.
type deal.
But yeah, so after, I guess, so we've talked about
Yeah, after
them.
lore,
Yeah, they
it's sewer
existed.
time.
It's sewer time already. Wow.
It's sewer time, baby.
Okay, so during the events of leaving the house, you are becoming a bracer, 16 years old. Wowzers. You go to Bracer Guild. Bracer Guild says, hey, this is your last day. Congrats. Take a test. Remember Dad's newspaper. You go and you do a bunch of things for Charizard, learning about all the different bracer stuff. At the very end of it, you go to a sewer. This is your test, the one and only. You have to go into the sewer and retrieve a box, and then give it back to Charizard. Now,
And this is where you first do combat in the game. Let's go.
yeah, it's a little janky at the start, I feel, with the way that things
Yeah,
are done.
yeah, the way that this combat system work is you have a grid, and then you have a bunch of different actions. You can either attack, use an art, a craft,
Yeah, it's the
or
arts
an
and
item.
crafts system.
Arts and crafts, which
It's
is
literally the arts and crafts system. I was looking into it. That's the reason they called it what they did, because they thought arts and crafts was a funny name for.
it is pretty great. So your arts are your standard magics, fire, heal, whatnots. Crafts are kind of like signature abilities that like are unique for like each character, along with your ultimate. After you get enough CP points,
Which
unfortunate
is like
acronym.
a bunch of CP. If you collect enough CP, 100 to be precise, you become particularly violent, and are able to express yourself in a way that's kind of outside the social norm for a period of time.
There's also not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole.
There's also EP. I think they're Ethereum points.
I have no idea what it stands for. I think CP stands for combat points. I think that's what it usually stands for.
Yeah, that's the
You got
standard, I think, in modern society.
you got HP, obviously EP for your arts, and you have what is it like a turn? I forget what the specific system is called, where it lists all of the enemy and your guys' turns
It's basically
in which you
a
act.
turn linked list. Like, you get to insert yourself at a period depending on how fast or slow your moves are. That's it.
Yeah, and mu- like attacks and like your crafts are like instant, while magic takes a little bit longer, but it's a lot more powerful.
Yeah, and
And if
also certain magics are faster than other magics, which is bizarre. Like, there's a healing ability called Tear that typically takes you about a turn, but there have been instances I've had where it takes 2 or 3, and there's no indication of what specifically lets you go a certain speed or not that we can
yeah,
find. So,
yeah, it the combat system to me was a little obtuse to understand. It's kind of like simple. I feel like it's going to get a lot more complex, especially now that I know about the whole
quartz and skills.
yeah, quartz and skills, where like each it's kind of like materia in Final Fantasy VII, where you slot like a little like orb into a slot, and then if you have like different like lines that connect to each other, and if you have enough like certain like quartz, like you have like 4 blue quartz, 2 yellow,
Two
and then like
gold, one yellow, or sorry, one white. And you get like a
yeah,
super special magic ability that's slightly upgraded from the others.
yeah, so you get like your base stuff along with the other stuff, and I don't know quite how each orb each orb like lists how much like quartz like it gives off, but like I don't
It's
know
like
if
an
like that's
element value.
yeah, I don't know if like it's random or not, or if each one has like its specific
Each one has a specific one.
each one has a
I can
specific one.
confirm that. Yes. Yeah, I can
Okay.
confirm that. More powerful ones typically have higher values, and furthermore, they're hidden in the sense that because I've played about a chapter ahead, and I've had more experience with this thing. One of the things that I accidentally learned when you get more access to different kinds of orbaments, some orbaments have certain classifications that exceed just the specific name, right? So, for example, if I have HP plus 5%, right, I can't have another HP plus 5%. Fair, right? They're both HP plus 5%. But some orbaments are classified like blind, I think you either have blind or petrify or something like that, right? You have petrify, I think, in your game. And it's a specific kind of orbiment that's separate from a generic one. So not only can you not have another petrify orbiment, you can't have a blind or a stun orbiment either, because they have the same kind of effect, which is giving a 10% chance to affect the enemy in some way when you hit them with anything. So they also add that. And then on top of all of that, they have a line system where beyond your center orbiment, you have split lines that each have their own tally of the orbiment value associated with your character. So one line might have like 2 gold, 1 white as your base, and then you might have a 3 black and 1 black. So now you have 4 black, 2 gold, and 1 white. On the other side, you have 2 red. And because it's connected to the 2 gold and 1 white, you might have 2 red, 2 gold, 1 white. And you might have a spell where if you have 2 red, 2 black, 2 gold, 1 white, you get access. But because they're on different lines, they're counted as separate tallies. So even though you have the correct elements, they're not in the same line. So therefore, they don't contribute to the same total. They contribute to separate totals.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little complex.
And then there's also like certain things where you're only allowed this specific like type in this slot that I've noticed with a Charizard when she joins the party, where her like top slot can only be wind.
Yeah, and Joshua's first slot can only be black. Or was it called Void? Or Mind or something like that? It's not dark. I keep thinking it's dark, but it's something like Mind.
It's something along that.
Mm-hmm. Which is somewhat amusing. Also, enemies have different resistances, and one thing I found is that throughout the entire game, fire, just generally speaking, is a resistance that's very frequent. So on top of the obvious stats, there seems to be the implication that some types of magic denote a certain play style. So fire, for example, gives you plus 5% attack, and lose 5% health, or defense, one of those two. And its spell, in theory, is the same damage level as all the others. But from what I've seen, because I've just played a lot of side quests too, so I've just seen a little bit more regarding combat, the resistances of enemies tend to fall along the lines of fire being minimum like 10 to 20% weaker. So there's also hidden mechanics like that. And it feels like the game in general doesn't want to like show everything it has to show off. And thus Alex has ended his segment on rambling about numbers.
We're full-fledged bracers now. Hooray. We went into sewers and then became bracers. A lot more smellier.
Yes. Need a bath.
And then 2 little shits come up to us, and it's like, fuck you. Literally just being little shits. And it's like, okay.
You're not a real bracer because you're a girl. They're real, like, they're honestly kind of sexist.
But, I mean, kids, so... Like,
no, I think they should be held to the same standards as fully grown adult men and women. So, I don't know. I think they should be canceled on Twitter.com.
Hey, that's
I think it's
X.
probably fair. Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No. I will never call it X. It is such a
Me
dumb...
either.
Anyway. So these kids...
And then they fuck off into the woods, and then the guild kind of like secretary person, like Elena or something like that, pops up and is like, kids are gone. Can you go? We need to get Cassius. And it's like, no, we can do it. We can do it. So we go in and then save the kids, but it still gets a little cocky. It's like, haha, I did this all on my own. And then almost gets jumped by a monster. And then Cassius comes in and saves her. And it's like, you better watch your back.
Mm-hmm. And there's 2 things that I wanna mention regarding that, which I think is neat. One, the game tries to have some sort of like weirdly divergent narrative that doesn't actually go anywhere. Like you have instances where you can... there are multiple instances in the game where you can choose to either wait or like slow down or just go head first in. And obviously, the correct choice in every instance, if you're truly Estelle, is to just barge in and never, never surrender, because she is that character. Um, but I found from doing some alternatives, when you wait and you sit down, you're patient. Really, the only difference is that typically you get more information about the world, like lore, stuff like that. It's interesting that they sprinkle it in because I feel like it doesn't really accomplish anything, like mechanics wise or gameplay.
It gives a little more flavor to the world.
I suppose so. I feel like at some point there must have been, and maybe there still is. Maybe it's like if you rush into the kids, you scare a hippopotamus in the upstairs bathroom, and it freaks out and causes the end of the world or something. I don't know. I don't know what the grand plan is yet. We're on chapter like 1 for me. Like, but currently it literally just seems to be like, do you want more lore? Are you done? We've had 5 minutes of story. Are you good? And the second thing that I want to bring up is, interestingly, at the time that you're playing, Estelle hasn't determined why she wants to be a bracer, which is amusing. And you can see that she has very, I want to say like arrogant, but that's probably not the correct word. It's she has distasteful reasons for wanting to become a bracer, and one of them is just to be the hero. One of the things while she's in the tower is she is gloating to this kid because this kid has mocked her, saying that she did all right for saving their lives and nothing that good, and said that he did all right for a girl, I think is in particular what he said. And when Cassius comes in to save her, her first thought isn't, oh, I got saved, thank goodness. It's, oh, he stole the thunder. Which is amusing. Because later on that does change, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So, what happens after the tower? Unless you have something you want to say about the tower.
Another mechanic that gets introduced in like this like little thing, which I don't know how I'm going to feel later on, is the NPC also being in the fights, and then if one of them dies,
Oh, yeah.
game over. So far, with like so far in the prologue, this hasn't been too much of a issue. The only time I found it really an issue was during the mine, because that's when like a slight difficulty spike happened.
It did?
Well, I'm not gonna be doing side quests because I just don't have time for it.
Dude, I was doing all the side quests, but also I was trying to do them on my own to try and give Brandon some more time to like potentially catch up because I was zooming ahead. And I wanted to do it without a guide. So I spent, I think, 3 hours of real life time wandering around finding one monster, clearing out like room after room after room after room. And I ground so much that I think I was level 14 on the first main quest by the time I was done it. So when I got to the mine, it was like, oh, the monsters have escaped. And oh boy, I just cleaned them up. Like it wasn't even a question. But again, we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah. I'll settle in.
Later NPC like involved in the mechanics is later on when you have a you have an ally who tags along to actually applies like debuffs, which is like so nice. And it's like, oh, that can be fun later on when you have like different like guest characters in it instead of like not hostages, the opposite of hostages.
Yeah, walking piles of shambling meat.
It's escorting. Yeah, that's it. Escorting.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. I love going into dungeons with my escorts. They make me feel very pleasant about the whole situation. I don't. They suck. I have never been a fan of escort missions. Never. I don't think anybody has. I don't think there's a single person I know of where it's like, hey, what was your favorite level of that game? And they're like, oh, my favorite level was probably the one where I had to guide around NPCs who were slow, unresponsive, kept running into combat, and if they got hurt, like a fly, gave them a kiss on the wrong night, and it combined with a cross breeze, it would just like destroy their soul, and they'd just be like, I can't go on, sorry, you've lost the mission, let's start again. Never have I heard that as my favorite. Yeah, it's a pivotal mechanic in this game.
We'll see if it gets better or worse.
Yeah. I'm hoping to just overlevel it to the point where I just don't have to deal with it.
Now's the time where Cassius or like the kids get the letter and then give it to Cassius, and it's like, oh shit, now I need to go to this other place. Doesn't specify like which places. He just says a lot of like different places to investigate like a certain matter. So now the lead bracer is gone, but now we got junior bracers to pick up in his leave, and now we start to do Cassius's kind of like side activities. One we already mentioned, the farmland. Won't get too much more into that. The next one we talked briefly, but not fully, about helping out the mayor with a septrim crystal.
Is this what is this septium?
Septium.
I think it's septium.
Yeah, which is also in the lore thing, is also like another power thing similar to like ornaments.
They're
and
the
like
same thing, actually. Joshua explains it
Oh,
to
it's
Estelle at some point. I don't remember when. I think you have to opt into it.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's like septium is the uncut crystals that have potential power, and then quartz are sculpted crystals that are prepped to be put into a machine.
Okay. Yeah. So the mayor, does he give it to us or? Yeah, he
No, no,
wants.
no. The mayor
No, no.
gives
Yeah.
us a slip that says, "Hey, go to the mines and collect this thing for us," and we do. And then we
And
come
then
back.
yeah, and then we go. Well, it's not that easy. We
No,
go talk to the.
you had more of a an in depth story. So if you want, you can go ahead with the mine. I literally
Uh,
showed up, wrecked some bitches, and left.
it's not that complicated. Basically, you go down to the mine, go talk to the mining captain. It's like, hey, can we get the crystal? It's like, cool. And then gives Stell the crystal, and then she plays around with it. It's like, ooh, fancy, glittery.
Yeah, yeah. Estelle is given this like super power, like really big crystal, the biggest in the land that's ever been seen, who's been going to be given to the queen. And I think the captain says this, and her first thought is, Joshua, look, it's so sparkly. When I run around with it in one hand, waving above my head, it's so pretty.
It's like,
And
Estelle,
Joshua's like,
please.
yeah, and Joshua's just like, please, Estelle, like if you break it, that's more than our allowance can cover. You gotta stop while you're ahead. And she's like, I'd never drop it. And then she pretends to drop it, and everybody's like, and she's like, I'd never. Well, come on, guys. Not that klutzy. And of course, Josh is like, sure.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I'd like to point out too, when you're going into the mine, there's a point where you go on, because like the mechanic I think they were building up to, maybe they didn't have time, was you go on mine carts. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
flip
that
a
thing.
lever, and you get to choose the track that you get to go on. And the very first one, if you just don't flick the lever, you get into the minecart and you go off. You go to the one main miner dude at the top floor, and you talk to him.
I
and
think
he's
you go
like,
directly to the elevator. I think.
no,
If
the
you go.
first one you go to him because he says, "Oh, I see you came here," and you go, "Hey, where's the elevator?" And he's like, "Oh, you just have to flip the lever." And you're like, "Okay." So you leave and you go back to the front and you flip the lever and you go all the way down to the door. You go to the door and it's like, you try the door and it says, "Oh, it's locked." I think Josh was like, "It's locked," and Estelle's like, "We can break it in," and Josh was like, "We probably shouldn't." And so, oh, we'll just go look for a miner who maybe has a key. And so you go back to the first bit, and then you flip the lever again. You come back to the same miner, and you're like, "Hey, it's locked." He's like, "Oh, here's a key." It's like, why didn't you? I was here prior.
Yeah, I thought that minecart was gonna be like the gimmick of the dungeon.
I did too, yeah.
I'm assuming there's not gonna be many gimmicks, uh, like dungeon gimmicks in this game.
Well, at the same time, it's like I feel like they've hinted a couple times we're going to come back to Roland. Because there is a door in the sewer that's locked, and I don't know of a way to unlock it. And also, we can talk about the other bit after. I guess we can talk about it now. While you're in the mines on the second floor, do you want to explain what happens?
Uh, I yeah. On the bottom floor, you meet up with the Mayan boss, and then it's like, cave in, and then monsters.
Yes.
And then you gotta save a bunch of miners around.
And so you go through each miner. You learn at some point there was a novice miner who came in, and he was an idiot and blasted open a hole in the wall that caused a cave in. And in particular, he uncovered a den of monsters, right? And you can actually... Did you attempt to go in? Because there's like a big fog you can do.
Yeah, I attempt. It's kind of like a miasma almost.
Yeah.
That weird thing.
So I feel like that is also an implication that we're going to come back. Furthermore, when you're done the mine, the captain's like, I might use Roland's Bracer Guild more. And you're like, okay. And you never come back. You don't get a side quest related to the mine. I've checked. So I have a feeling we're going to come back.
It would make sense. Like later on in the game, it's like some end game dungeons.
You come back and it's actually like the strongest monsters in the game are in this blood mine.
I mean that would make a lot of sense.
It would. I mean, there's a big septium crystal, and every single time you whack a monster, they bleed septium. So it might actually be the case. I'm not certain. Regardless.
We take the septium crystal back to the mayor, and then we find out someone's also there, named Josette, who's on an independent study about cultural stuff about each region, cultural
appropriation, I believe, is her is her study.
And then it's like, show them the crystal. It's like, ooh, it's like, hey, it's a gift for the queen. How lovely.
And so the mayor's like, oh, isn't this the biggest, most luxurious, fat, thick, dripping jewel you've ever seen in your life, random citizen? And she's like, ee-hee, it's so cute, ee-hee. I'm so glad to have been a part of this, ee-hee. And he goes, I'm going to put it in this safe right here. Do you see it? You see this, random citizen? This safe. It's on the floor.
Safe right here.
Don't look at the digits I'm putting in. And she goes, okay, hee-hee. And then Estelle and her have a nice moment where it's like, oh, it's so cute. I like your dress, that whole thing. And then she's like, oh, I've got to leave. Literally the moment after the mayor puts the gem in the safe. Not at all conspicuous. And then you get your reward from the mayor.
Yep. And then our last quote-unquote job for the chapter is with the liberal news, where we meet...
the liberal news media.
Liberal news media. Where we meet Niall.
Probably the best character in the game.
A 30-year-old lying that he's in his 20s. I'm gonna be real.
He's a smoker, and he does not look 20.
Yeah, he's like a chain smoker 21, somehow.
He can't run anymore. Like, his lungs are just shot.
I'm not going to look up his age because I don't want to be spoiled. It's like, this character dies in the third game or something like that.
Yeah, because I know is big enough too, where it's like, oh, hey, remember that character you like? That the entire fandom enjoyed? Yeah, we killed him off 7 games down the line. Just add spark. I can totally see this kind of game doing that.
Well, I definitely can see them bring back characters because I know that they bring back some characters from other games.
I think I've seen Estelle in more modern games, so I'd assume so. I know that they do character redesigns and age ups and stuff.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
we also meet her.
The other
friend.
Yeah, the other half of the duo, Dorothy, camera woman, is a mess. As I describe her, a lovely little ditz of a person.
I do like mess better. Yeah, she's just when you have a bunch of dishes in your hand and you trip and they just kind of collapse onto the floor, and what's left is a bunch of broken, shoddy, mixes of broken dreams and destroyed dishware. I think that's the best description of her.
I mean, she
cute to look at, but also, oh my god, what's wrong with her?
I think she breaks something or like
Yeah,
try or buy something from like the ornament shop, and it's
yeah.
like
So
2,000 mira.
yeah,
He's
she's
like,
dispatched by Niall to go and get some repairs to her camera. And in the process, she finds something that she claims is pretty. And then while looking at it, she breaks it. And it costs 2,000 mira. So then she has an argument with the Orbital guy, and Niall comes in and has to pay for it.
yep. It's like, goddamn fucking kid. Even though they're probably like roughly the same age,
Yeah, supposedly.
supposedly.
But at the same time, Estelle is a 16-year-old. So is Joshua. In the Pokemon series, they go out and get full-time careers as Pokemon trainers at 10 years old. I'm pretty sure at this point, Japan's video game labor laws should probably intervene.
I mean, that's like any shonen.
Is this a shonen?
No,
That's an
but
interesting
like,
question on its own. Can
probably
you have
not.
a shonen with a female lead?
Yes, you wouldn't typically think of it, but yes.
Because the only time I'm thinking of like a shonen that's like a female lead, because shonen just means 4 boys, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Or what
Would it-
the term usually means.
well, that's the translation as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, that's the translation, but like more like the idea.
Yeah,
Of
like
it.
the interpretation.
Yeah.
Because the only time I can think of it is like, does High School DxD count as a shonen?
No.
I mean, it's like a fighting thing. You have a male protag, but you have a female co-lead.
But you have a lot of
And-
female co-leads in shonen.
Yeah, but I feel like whenever there's a female co-lead, it's one of 2 types, right? 2 archetypes. Either they're sexy and they're just there for people to look at, which is its own issue, or they're children. Like in the case of, is it Monster X Hunter, which is the one with the Nezumi?
That's
Is that her name?
My Hero.
No, that's not it. Hold on. There's one about, what is it called? The vampire girl who got bit or whatever, and she walks around in the dude's basket, and she has a bamboo reed between her teeth so she doesn't eat people. She
Oh,
turns
that's
into a
Demon
demon
Slayer.
instead. Demon Slayer, yes. That's the only other like female protagonist or co-lead or whatever that you see in shonen. I feel like they're cute and they're to be protected. But even later on, she gets like a super powerful form, and it's literally the only difference is they aged her up and gave her breasts, which again is its own issue. But yeah. So I feel
anyways.
like it'd be interesting to have a female lead. Yeah, sorry, we can move on.
Anyways, we escort them through the tower that we went to previously, which I forgot to mention what the tower name was. It's like Esmalis Tower or something like that.
Esmalis? That sounds right.
Yeah.
Esmalis.
So you
Something
go
like
up
that, at
the Esmalis Tower to escort them up to the top for their story.
Yeah.
And
Good old
in
Esmalis.
in combat, Dorothea takes when she takes the pictures, she'll blind enemies, which is really fun.
It's really lovely, yeah. I've had my ass saved by her, where it's like Joshua was on like 100 health, and she was like, "Smile," and the monster was like, "Ah!"
Oh, that just reminded me. There's also voice acting in the game, but only in combat. I forgot about that.
Is
Because
there?
there's
The only voice acting I think is like, "Huh, ugh."
No. Every time they do like their ultimate,
Oh, right, yeah, because
They-
Charizard
they-
goes, "You've been naughty." It's so dumb.
yeah, which is like it caught me off guard the first time. I was like, oh, this game actually has voice acting, but only in combat quotes.
I prefer Estelle's, where I'm pretty sure she literally says like, "I'm gonna get you," and that's it.
Yeah, it's literally just I'm gonna get
Yeah.
him.
I'm gonna get him. And then she, yeah. And then Joshua, I don't think says anything.
I think he just grunts. He goes like, ha, hua,
He
yeah.
goes at the end. He goes, "Damn." I'm convinced he's Shadow the Hedgehog, but we can move on.
He's not.
I'm pretty sure he's just
Really
cosplaying. Look, he, yeah. Anyway,
Another fun quirk of Dorothea is to take pictures, like some like weird quirk. She
mm,
has to like take like good pictures and not be like camera, quote unquote, like camera shy. In the opposite direction is to treat like objects as like people. So it's
mm,
like, yeah, work it, building, yeah, you
yeah.
got it.
The very first time she tries to take a picture of the tower, she tries to be all professional, and Estelle and Joshua are like, "Wow, this is like a completely different person. Man, she's kind of impressive. It's crazy how professionals act in their natural habitat." And then she falls asleep because she's bored. And then Niles is like, "Come on, stop trying to look good in front of the kids. Just do it how you normally do it, you doofus." And she's like, "Okay." And she's like, "Oh yeah, strike that pose." Dumb as heck, and I love it. She is a jelly bean and must be protected at all costs.
And once we get to the top of the tower, we meet the fuck is his name?
Well, hold on. There's also an interesting thing that's brought up while you're in the tower.
Oh, okay.
You can open a chest and monsters pop out of it.
Oh yeah, that one was fun. I did not expect mimics in trails.
Or
That
like
fight,
pseudo mimics, yeah.
that fight almost fucking wrecked me.
Oh, same here. I actually died and had to come back.
I don't think I think I may have game overed once and then got the idea, but then you get like a pretty decent weapon for Estelle from that.
Yeah, I think it like boosts her to 99 or something like that for attack. For me, at least.
Once you get to the top of the tower, Joshua senses someone like a fucking like ninja. It's like
Yeah,
I sense a presence here. It's like Joshua, how?
he does it a couple times. I'm convinced he's a lab experiment.
I think he's just a ninja.
I don't know. I'm gonna hold on to the Shadow the Hedgehog theory till I die. I think.
I feel like you're gonna be very disappointed.
Look, if I can, I guess that would make sense to them. We played a game. I bet on something. That doesn't work. We'll move on. Look, I have a sixth sense for these things. Okay. Just like Joshua, I am Shadow the Hedgehog, so I just know. But yeah, he detects Mr. Miyagi up on the top of the tower.
Yeah, you meet Professor Abala.
Is it a Bala?
Bala, ALBA.
Sure, Albala.
Abala.
Albala.
An architect who's a little bitch who likes to run.
Archaeologist, you mean?
Did I not just say archaeologist?
You said architect.
Did I say?
You said
I mean,
architect.
he's interested. He's kind of
He's
interested in like
ancient civilizations architecture, yes.
yes, in a way, yes.
So could you say he is an archaeological architect?
I mean, those exist.
Yeah, he's an actual archaeological architect.
I mean, he's interested in ruins specifically. So like,
So he's an actual ancient. No, he's an actual archaeological ancient architect.
something like that.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with that.
I forget, honestly. I forget like his specific reason that he's up
He
there.
is a bitch boy who ran through the whole tower, just being so pathetic and wimpy that the monsters didn't touch him. His words, because he has quote unquote mastered that technique.
The art of running away.
Yeah. And he gets to the top of the tower because he wants to investigate a giant mechanical, what looks like a teleporter or a ship or a laser.
Some sort of like monument esque.
It's like a giant orbital cannon or something like that on top of this tower. Yeah, so we find the archaeologist dude, and after Joshua is like, I sense a presence. Later on, he's like, okay, Estelle, now I'm randomly depressed, so stop talking to me. And you get a chance to wander around and talk to everybody.
I don't think he's randomly depressed. It's just kind of like we're taking a breather.
No, he said he felt sick and he needed fresh air. And then you question him further, and he's like, don't talk to me about it. Yeah. And so as Estelle, you wander around. You talk to Niles a bit, and he's sexist because, haha, sexist news reporter.
Oh, so he wants another
He's kind of
smoke.
cool. He does, yeah. He's kind of a
Instant.
cool character, though. I kind of like archetypes that, like, I don't think it's bad inherently to have archetypes in media that are like sexist or demasculating or whatever, or overly masculine or attempting to be, because it adds like flavor. And I feel like he does it okay because the way that he does it is almost like an uncle poking at you rather than like actual bad stuff. Because he's not a bad guy, so it would make no sense for him to be saying these things in like an evil setting. But yeah, so Niles there, he says something I think about like how unsexy you are or something like that. And then talks about how he likes getting scoops, not ice cream. This is journalistic scoops.
I gotta get them scoops, eh?
Gotta get them scopes. Apparently, he acts as though he's like a respected reporter. He's been investigating these towers for quite some time, going around nabbing bits and pieces, and that was in fact the reason he wanted to come up was the machine and himself. He doesn't know what's going on with them. He does think they're connected, so there's that. So you get a little bit of information, then you go on to Ditzy Lady, and literally the only thing that she supplies is he's hot. Joshua, can I take a picture of him? And Estelle's like, probably not. And she's like, aw, okay.
Everybody
That's it.
loves what milk toast characters.
Yeah, the more boring, the hotter. I don't know.
Not boring, just more like generic. Like Joshua is not like a hot character. He's just like the average like he's like your average Joe anime protag.
Especially in Japan, because like the majority hair color and stuff is black and brown, right? And he's a
Yeah.
black-haired dude. Does he have brown eyes or black eyes?
I don't remember.
Either way, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be the stand-in for the person playing the game, so that they feel like him, especially if it's like shonen style. But either way, you talk to everybody. They say their piece. Nothing really gets said that's relevant, I think.
I feel like the only like thing that's interesting is with Bala, that he's from Ambronion, a place where like there's like tension between the two nations and like people, but there's nice conversation between Estelle and him. And it's like I feel like war shouldn't like define like relations between us or something along those lines. Kind of like the nature of that is like the people different than the government itself. I just thought it was a nice little conversation that was like, oh, that's nice that they've touched on kind of like this kind of like more background thing with kind of like two different people from like these regions, kind of like confiding in like this kind of like shared thing between these two nations.
Yeah, like we fought and killed each other. It's like a France and England kind of situation. It's like
I
we've
feel
killed
like
each
that's
other
in
and fought
England
each
with
other.
almost any other country.
Yeah, but France and England are like specific because they
Yeah.
fought for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and then proxy hundreds of years as well for like,
Yeah,
the West.
yeah, and then so I feel like there's kind of like this. Yeah, we fought, and like maybe we're equally far apart from each other as we are kind of like close in a weird way. Because like everybody has this like status of like whenever you meet an Arbonian, one of the very first things that they bring up is always like, yeah, we did fight, but like we're chill now, right? I think it's a little tense, but we're probably fine, right? So it's somewhat amusing. And there is this back and forth. One thing that I've noticed is that the liberal kingdom is like a backwater kingdom compared to Arbonia, from like all the text that's everywhere and like the liberal news media, the mainstream liberal news media, of course. I don't read conspiracy bullshit. So Joshua does though. Anyway, so I feel he would. Come on. So what was I saying? God damn it. Oh yeah. So like there's kind of this interesting play. Is it? No, it's a side quest. There's a character in a bar who expressly says that Roland is a backwater nation, and like several merchants from Urbonia come to Roland, and they all state that like Roland and liberal, what is this like country bumpkin kind of situation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of amusing in that sense too. Do we know who won the war?
I
Was there a
lib it was, liberal. It was lib due to their airships specifically. So their air
really?
fleet is what drove them
Okay.
back, and I
Really?
think
That's neat.
yeah, that was part of Charizard's whole speech. Was like we drove them back with our airship like fleet technology due to like the orbits.
Right,
Even
yeah.
though like technically Embrodion Brodian
Urbonia.
seems a lot more technologically advanced, especially what I've seen in like future games as well,
Yeah.
where like the sole focus, like Trails of Cold Steel, is like completely an Embrodion, if I remember correctly, because each like series focuses on a different region of the world.
Yeah. And I think Urbonia is all about tanks.
Yeah, and like kind of like warfare, because I think the whole thing of Trails into Cold Steel is about you're in like a military academy.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure you're training to be a general or a commanding officer or something like that. I
Yeah.
vaguely remember seeing like clips of that from a different YouTuber from ages ago. Which I'm excited for because tanks are fun and anime tanks are just amusing.
It's
I'm blanking.
investigation. Woohoo.
Yes, we completely skipped. No, we didn't. That's the next thing.
It's the
my
next-
God.
It's
It's
the
almost
next-
like we're doing this in a sequential manner so that we stay organized.
Yeah, we say our goodbyes. I think the reporters go on to Bose or something next.
No,
For,
that's
like-
not for a bit yet.
Well,
They say
no,
that they're going to like Riku in a bar first to like celebrate their victory or whatever. They only leave once the mayor happens because remember he's like running out and he's like I gotta get the scoop and then he's like oh I can't run anymore.
no, specifically the reporters.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The last time you see them in this chapter is after the tower.
Yeah,
It's the last time you see them in this chapter, and then they
Yeah.
say they're going off to Bose.
no, that's not the okay. No. Sorry, we're thinking about the wrong tower. That they have another moment after the jewel thief because when you're leaving, they're also leaving at the same time going to Bose because there's like some big scoop or whatever. Because that's
Yeah.
where he gets winded. So it's a little bit further, but yeah, it's closer.
Yeah, basically when they split up between the archaeologists, the reporters, they all split up, and then we go to the Bracers Guild to report, and then it's like mayor comes in or somebody and is like, place has been broken in.
Help. Who could have ever done this? My family is tied up all kinky like in the downstairs and the maids are up in the attic. I don't know what to do with them in the States. Somebody help me.
So we go and do a little investigation segment, which I did not
Charizard
expect.
joins you.
Yeah, Well, after this.
No,
segment.
she joins you at the start too because she's
Well, she comes to
investigating the mayor on the
investigate,
bottom
but like
floor.
doesn't
Yeah.
help you in the investigation. She'll help.
No, she
like
treats
she'll.
it as like a training thing.
Yeah, so you go investigate, and I didn't expect like whole ass like just like kind of like a little like mini detective esque side thing, which I feel like is pretty cool.
It was cool. I do find it amusing though because it's like literally the last time we were there. I'm gonna put this gem in this safe, and the entire place is trashed. She saw the gem be put in the safe. I guess we'll get to that. We'll talk about that later.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. Also, I took a break in between, so I forgot. I was like, what did happen?
No, I just find it amusing because it's okay. I guess we'll talk about this now. Spoiler alert for this 70-year-old game. The chick who saw the gem be put in the safe is the one who robbed the place, as it's figured out later. I'm not gonna say why because that's more fun to talk about. But so she watched the mayor place the gem into the friggin' safe, and her response is showing up later with a crew of boys and girls and just fucking destroying the place looking for this gem. They already knew where it was. Why'd they mess up the whole place? Do you think like people investigating this are going to be like, well, you know, all the books are torn all over the place, and the safe is open, and the gem that's super important that everybody's talking about is gone. They must have stolen books. Like, what was their plan there?
I don't know. To like, I mean, it's a classic like diversion to like throw someone off because like they've raided the place, so like they knew people. They had witnesses of like them coming in, so they couldn't be like sneaky like of like, okay, we're gonna go in and just like take the thing. So like I could see them making a diversion to like do whatnot, but I feel like they probably should have done more diversions and not just the one room.
Yeah.
If they started messing up a bunch of different rooms, it may have been like harder. But you know, this is a video game, so who cares?
It's really hard to try and convince corporate that you need 700 assets, all of which are just the cluttered version of something else. So, yeah, that's fair enough. But it's funny too because Estelle totally buys into it. Because when you're wandering around, she's like, the papers are all like all over the place. I wonder why they did that. And Joshua's always the one to go like, well, they didn't take anything, so it must not be political. So yeah, she's fine.
Oh yeah, and Joshua is like just like an instant like, oh yeah, a detective.
Dude, he's like a private PI.
It's like, yeah, I know about the fingerprint trick. It's like,
so in order to open the safe, Joshua decides the brigands must have come in, put powder on the safe before the mayor put something in the safe, invisible powder, and then the mayor punched in the code, and then they came back later to go and see the amount of wear on the powder on the safe combination to see the pattern that the mayor would have put in so that they can brute force it quicker. And he just like does this over the course of like a 10-minute conversation. The best part about this is he hypothesizes all of it when you're talking about the front of the safe for like 10 minutes. And then you turn around and you look at the side of the safe and he's like, oh yeah, there it is.
And it's like, okay, yeah, perfectly deduced. It's not like he like looked at it first and was like, oh, this is how he did it. It's like, I hypothesize it's this thing. Okay, it's now this thing.
Yeah.
It feels like one of the like he has like a power of like almost convenience where he wills like the scenario into existence.
I think that's plot armor. Is that right? Is he just a walking Deus Ex Machina? Is that what it's called?
I don't think he would be a Deus Ex Machina. I just feel like
Jeez.
It feels like the story took over Joshua's body for a hot second. It's like, here's
Estelle
the plot
looks over
of
and
Joshua.
he's like glowing white. His eyes are blue. He's like reciting the characters of Pi.
Detective fiction is always like hard to write, and especially when it's not like your focus of your story. So it's like,
it's for
okay,
16-year-olds.
so when like you have like, oh, this is a fun here's a fun solution of like this like small thing. It's like you kind of like have to be like very like detailed oriented with it. It's also a real trick that people use of like the powdered shit.
It's interesting though, because I would assume that they read on media regarding this, surely, right? Or alternatively, because there's no like TV, so they have to read about this. It is stated Joshua's a reader.
There may be TV. I don't know.
I think there's radio.
There's
because if they have skyships, they must have radio.
Yeah, they might have radio. I don't know if they haven't seen a TV. I wouldn't really expect TV, but like I can totally expect radio.
Mm-hmm. But also, Joshua is stated to be a reader, so. And some of the books that he has been said to read are academic in nature, so he might be a man of my own heart and just like learned about this in a book somewhere, just out of curiosity. It's like, oh, maybe it's this thing, and it's like, oh, look, it was that thing. So there's like some level of explainability.
Some level of explainability. It's just the way that it's like done within the story. It's very like sudden. But anyways, you go down and then you answer Charizard's bunch of different questions. I got close on my first thing because I was like, it has something to do involved with the miners or something like that. And it's like,
Hmm.
technically that's right because I think like some of like the goons are like
Yeah,
part.
the novice miner that blew up the mine actually did it as a diversion tactic.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it was revealed later that that wasn't what she was supposed to do. She was supposed to steal the gem straight up, but she ended up accidentally blowing up the mine, and then just had to leave right away.
Hmm.
So when Brandon said, because Charizard, yeah, she gives like a little quiz, and at the very end you could choose the culprit, and Brandon was like, "Oh, it's the miner." I said it was nobody because I'm an idiot. It was
I,
me.
I feel like we both like were away from the plot long enough so that we both didn't remember that Josette existed.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And then the moment it's like, I think it may have been Josette. I was like, oh,
Oh,
oh no,
oh,
you're totally right.
so even though it's obvious in hindsight, if the way that we were playing it with like just kind of like breaks in between, it's like, oh yeah, correct. We're very dumb.
Yeah. And so you tell the mayor, he tells you to leave him be because he has to deal with his tied up wife. And then we go off to the hotel because the hotel is where we expect her to be because that's where she has been staying for the last period of time. During your investigation, you pick up a leaf, which is important for later. I just wanted to mention that real on the down low. On
Okay, there's a
pursuit
leaf. I
of
forgot.
her,
I forgot there was a leaf. But,
yeah, there's a leaf. There's a leaf to the Mistwald Forest, which is south of Roland. But
yeah.
yeah, so you go to the hotel where Josette's staying. You're like, quick, is there a hot chick in a school outfit? And the dude's like, yes, but she left like 16 minutes ago. And you're like, hurry to the airport. You go to the airport and you
And
talk
then
to a
it's
pervert guy.
and then it's the worst guy ever
Yeah,
conceived.
the best character I've ever seen in media,
I'm
who then
glad I never
begins to
have to talk to
spend
him
a
again.
solid 5 minutes ranting about how hot the school uniforms are for Josette's Academy. And then eventually, when you shut him up and you ask, okay, did one of those pass through? He's like, no. So it's like, okay, thanks, I guess. So you reconvene with Charizard, and you have another critical decision moment where everything could go wrong. And Estelle thinks deep into her soul and is reminded that it's almost dinner time. But also, crucially, the leaf in the mayor's house. And you do get to make that decision, which is amusing. It leads to the Mistwald Forest, and so you go down there. On the way, probably killing a giant elephant if you looked at the side quest, or whatever that thing is. It's in, like, giant steel armor.
Interesting.
And yeah, because that's what you did. Because you picked up a side quest, and there was like, oh, it's a large enemy.
Oh no, it
And
was
that
just
was a
an
giant
enemy that was
steel elephant.
blocking the
Yeah, that
bridge
was the
you
side
had.
quest.
Oh yeah, and I was like, oh, I guess I did this now. I
Yeah,
now
and you
remember.
had to, which is amusing as well. Because he was right in the way.
Yeah. Once you get through the forest, you then see them, Josette and a bunch of like sky pirate dudes. It's like Josette's like, ha ha ha, idiots, ha ha. I got this, and then Estelle's like, or something like,
Josette calls Estelle a dumb bimbo.
no. She does. Estelle calls herself a dumb bimbo, which is hilarious because
Okay,
Josette's
on yours she did. On mine, okay, so you get a choice to sit down and listen or to jump in. And on mine, I sat and listened. On Brandon's, he jumped in. So on mine, Josette called Estelle a dumb bimbo. On Brandon's, Estelle ran in and called herself a dumb bimbo.
I did not know that. That's fucking hilarious. I was like, "Whoa, Estelle, why you doing yourself like that?"
Yeah. The dynamic is supposed to be that Josette calls Estelle a dumb bimbo, to which Estelle responds to Josette that she's a tomboy. But yeah, you got a more amusing dynamic on there, where Estelle's like created a rivalry out of thin air.
Where she's like, "Don't call me this. I'm gonna degrade myself."
It's literally like gaslighting, Like, you come up to your school bully, and he's like talking about like lunch that day, and you're like, "Did you just call me a fucking moron?" And he's like, "What? I." So yeah, then you beat the tar out of her.
Yeah.
For me, I used a hurricane spell twice and killed her before she got to do anything. Brandon actually got to explore.
I actually did the fight.
And you learned that her physical resistance is ridiculously high.
Yeah, no, like it's really high. You gotta use some magic on her.
And her goons. Interestingly as well, you don't kill humans in this game, you just knock them out.
Which is, I mean, that's fair. You probably kill monsters because they pop. They just kind of like pop into like item things. It's like boop boop.
Yeah, except for the cats on the farm, which we skipped over.
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
not skipped over. We talked about it a little bit, but anyways.
that's true, yeah.
And
And
then
then
finally, not finally. And then it's like, oh yeah, and then Josette takes off like before like the fight goes from like the school girl outfit to cool ass sky pirate esque thing with like goggles, and like that's the best aesthetic ever. Sky pirate goggles in like
Spire.
a fantasy
I
setting.
said spy. Sky pirate goggles are pretty cool. They're at least up there.
And then a big ass ship comes down to their rescue. And
Just
then
before Charizard sexually assaults Josette.
I think it was one of the men or someone.
No, it was Josette.
Oh,
Because
Josette.
Josette is part of the Capua family. And Charizard's like, "Oh, the Capua family. You should tell me more information about that." And she's like, "I never said anything about that." And Charizard like straddles her whip and is like, "Are you sure?" And Josette's like, and then Charizard gets shot at from an airship.
Yeah, and I think Josette's brother or friend, I forget if
It's
they.
her brother.
Yeah, brother. I think they clearly say their relationship immediately. It's like get in, loser.
Totally like the perfect brother sister dynamic because he's literally like, "Come on, loser, get in." She's like, "Can you help me?" He's like, "I don't feel like it. Let's go."
We have to go. We don't waste time on these idiots.
Yeah. And then everybody like just buggers off and you're just left there. And then they have a pity party for like a solid minute. They're just like, "Oh, I should have done better. No, you were good. I did bad. No, you were great. I did bad. It wasn't you, it was me." The whole group. And then they go
And
back.
then they bring all their sulking back to the guild. Kind of just futz about, and then Anina, I think that's what her name is. The
I think you
receptionist.
called her Lisa earlier. I have no idea.
She's very
Generic
minor.
Guildie number 373.
Like, I feel like I should give her like some importance, but like, she's kind of there. She's just kind of like the receptionist.
Just
As
like in real life, the patriarchy forces receptionists into these situations of being undetermined heroes. So
she gets a phone call that Cash's ship is missing. Who not suspicious at all. Getting a letter and then the ship going missing of a Sears
especially
report.
considering he's super powerful, apparently.
So
Like he's
like the top bracer.
yeah. It's hinted that he accomplished some crazy nonsense in the war. I can't say further on that topic because it is brought up later. But yeah,
But
'cause
yeah.
of course it is. It's like a main plot point.
And then everybody gets worried. Estelle gets like especially like upset. And then prologue end. Except not really, because we got one more scene.
Yeah, and
Where
it's
it's
a
just
long one.
where it's kind of just like everybody is in the back at like the house
The manor.
house manor, Cassius's crib.
Yeah, his pimp crib.
Yeah.
Where all the ladies lay. And Charizard's there, so you know it's about to go down. She makes food with Joshua.
Yeah. And then Estelle comes down and it's a lot better. And it's like, okay, let's head to Bose because that's like I forget like the specific lead of why they want to go to Bose.
I think it's because that's where the airliner was caught. Because that's where it was last leaving from Bose.
Okay. Last sighting. So yeah,
Yeah, the last sighting was in that region because the military is said to be involved in that region for that reason.
so all three of them have kind of like a resolve to go to Bose and kind of like leave Roulette and leave a nameless bracer in charge of everything in this guild, which I find really funny. It's like, okay, man, it's time to do overtime. You didn't
And he's
ask for
rumored to be
this.
like a lazy one too. So it's legit just like, Gus has it. Whatever his name is.
Yeah, Guts has to carry like the entire thing on his back. So I really hope find out who Gus or whatever he is.
He's actually like one of the top bracers in all the entire world. It's like above Cassius. He's like, oh, it's I.
He's one of those like aloof type characters where he doesn't really try, but is like secretly like really powerful.
Yeah, like an idiot savant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's great about that scene too is like everybody's like dotting. Is that right? Doting on Estelle because they think she's depressed.
Yeah, and like
And then she literally just like, oh, she's not gonna be eating. That sucks. And then she comes down. She's literally like, man, when you don't eat for a while, you sure get hungry. Anyway, I'm going.
I Estelle is so great.
I love her
I
bits.
there's very few characters in media that I've seen like Estelle, especially in like anime type
Yeah,
kind of like leads. Like there's definitely like kind of like the over
like a
optimistic
charming
type of
overconfidence.
kind of like over like eager and like energetic type of leads, but like it's kind of like it feels like a real person. Funny
It
enough,
does.
it comparatively to like kind of like archetypes, because like you can like put Estelle into like the energetic over almost like overachiever kind of like archetype, kind of like in that sense, but it feels like there's a lot of depth in there. I guess one last thing that I want to mention before the end that we didn't really touch on is the NPC interactions in this game, which is absurdly good because there's so much dialogue for like after each specific main scenario with like every NPC in town. And it's kind of absurd because that's like the one thing I've heard of Trails games was like these long branching narratives and then like NPCs that feel like that they have their own stories going on and like their own people. And it's like almost every single main merchant, random passerby, excluding like a few people in like a bar, but kind of like
Yeah, they're
mainish.
more caricatures.
They're more caricatures, but they're put in a lot more effort than a lot of RPGs into like their stuff. Where most NPCs are kind of like world building or pointing you towards a certain thing. With this is like okay, you have like the NPCs talking about like more like interesting stuff like about like main kind of like scenario stuff, but you also have like the PCs interacting with them, which is like
You can also
very rare for like
you
an
can also like
RPG to do.
change the way that they speak to you based on how you play the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so because I'm doing the side quests, right? Sometimes I've gone to areas earlier than I'm supposed to, and they actually remember that. So when you get to the area a second time, it's like, oh, it's you guys again. What's up? Thanks for helping us with that other thing.
Yeah, it's like
It's in depth.
it's crazy, and it's like that's like Trails' whole like deal, and that's like it's like one of the few games recently where it's like I kind of want to like stop by like each NPC just like a little bit instead of like side questing, kind of just like talking to the NPCs, like kind of like a little diversion. Because usually when you want like main meaningful like content in a game, you go for like the side quests instead of like the main quests. But I feel like I haven't really had a needed to because like I feel that the world's being built out just through the NPCs, but then you also have side quests on top of it.
I'd actually say like the actual content of the side quests are lacking in a lot of ways. Like there are quite a few side quests that's entire purpose is like kill the big monster, and it's literally just a monster that you'll see in the future. That's it. There are some instances like this one monster that is in chapter 1, who I've already talked about because you said you're not going to do that side quest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally just like it's a more special monster. It's like a monster that you don't see in that entire region. And it's got its own like side plot, and the characters will remember you and interact with you during that. And like the way that everything is formulated is a mixture of like it's almost like foreshadowing when you're there, and you don't really get it until you come back later, like that kind of thing. That's the only good like kill the monster quest that I've gotten. Every other kill the monster quest has been here's a giant monster in the middle of God knows where, who you're gonna see in the next like 20 minutes of gameplay. Kill it now on its own, which always sucks. But every other side quest is way better. Like there's a side quest where you help a kid find a rock. Probably the most meaningful side quest I've ever accomplished in a video game ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I wept after I retrieved the rock for this kid, and he looked up at me with his big, beautiful, shining eyes, and told me to go fuck myself because I was a girl and I'm not good enough. So,
Kids being kids, you gotta love it.
hell yeah, yeah. But no, there are some really good side content. I have actually missed some too. The one thing I don't really like about the side quests as well is they're timed, and sometimes they'll be timed in a way where you're not really certain what the timing is because it's short, medium, and long, and it's based off of like main quest snippets. So there's been one side quest I missed because it was short and it was in between an already short main quest. So where you literally just have to talk to one person, walk out and talk to another person. That was the difference. And
Wow.
I failed a quest in between that, and it was in the same like town. So the implication is like if I want to get all the side quests done, I have to, after talking to every single step of a main quest, go back to the guild to check for side quests.
In its own right, I find that neat and like isolated, but that's also like, okay, talk to this one person, go that. It feels like very like old school, where it's like you kind of like need a guide if you want to like fully experience all of the content in the
Oh
game.
yeah. Also, like, there's a lot of time wasters. I feel like JRPGs do this a lot accidentally, especially. But like, whenever you're trying to hunt for a monster, they'll put it like out of the way, so you have to see it in a specific camera rotation. They'll be like, go to the East Bowes Highway to kill this creature, and the location of the map is not actually called the East Bowes Highway. It's just on the East Bowes Highway, and
Oh,
the default location of your camera, it's hidden by trees. So you have to like rotate your camera full 360 while you're wandering through. And there's an orbiment where you can get something called like eagle eyes or whatever, and you can see red dots on the map for each enemy. They don't show up on that. So you're required to just like walk into each region and just spin your camera constantly. It's really annoying. But beyond that, like the side quests are fine. I feel like this game has a little bit of a tug of war between like mechanics and fun in some areas.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to see how all of that evolves throughout the game, because we got like 5 more chapters of this game, I think.
Well, you have 5 more, yeah.
Well, I do.
I have 4, I think. I don't remember if there's a 6th chapter.
I think there's 5, if I look correctly.
But I'll be honest, like, the side content, doing it and not doing it, the difference is mainly like 2 hours. And I feel like the main quests are something like 4 to 6 if you're running all the time. So I feel like the game's fairly quick, all things considered. Like maybe like a 40, 50 hour game.
Yeah, fairly like a decent chunk.
Which is good because it's really cheap. I definitely, so far, I recommend it. I think it's good. But yeah, I guess, does that mark our first episode?
Yes, that indeed marks our first episode. Future Brandon here. You can follow us on Twitter/X at The Bracers Guild. If you have any questions, you can email us at thebracersguild@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on Spotify. For right now, hopefully more podcasts, apps in the future. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Bye bye.